We're live. We're live. Okay, then I need to.
Okay, in fact, we in timer.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. Hi everyone.
Don't hire anybody.
You're live.
I'm Bob. That was first time. That's the wrong thing. Yeah, my shit is good. Wow. Good. Yep. Muted. And this.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining our live session. What I'm married versus what I got. My name is Precious, and I have here with me.
Hi, Abby.
It's liking.
And then I have our dear sister and brother, sister.
Gbemi Tebe.
All right, so thank you so much for watching us. Today we're going to be discussing about expectation in marriage. What I married versus what I got. Like this is something informal. We're just gisting about marriage in general, right? So we're going to be talking about. So I want Sister Gbemi and Uncle Muyiwa to introduce themselves.
She's aging me.
We just introduced ourselves.
Yeah, so how long have you been married for?
How long have you been married?
What year is this? Let me calculate. This is 2013. Sorry, 2023. Okay. This is gonna make it 13th year. So
wow.
It's going to 13.
Yeah. Wow, so we've been married for 13 years. Wow, 13 years.
13. Okay.
All right, so I mean, I just want us to tell, like, I mean, how did you guys meet? Like, you know, how did you meet?
We're very holy. We met at church.
So you met?
Yeah, we did actually meet at church. No, you. No, I think you should.
No, you talk.
No,
Why do you want to go into my mouth?
No, because I think you. No, you talk.
You talk.
Okay. So
I think when I first met him, I'm sure he thought, what is wrong with this?
As usual.
Babe? I kind of just turned to him. Were we in the same department, or you were not even in that
volunteering?
Yeah, he was volunteering, but I'm like, if you decided to volunteer, then when there's work to do, you get up and do it. So I was just like, yeah, can you please help us to pick up food from somewhere, this. Mind you, I always send people to pick up food from that place. I've never been there. And I think he just turned and he looked and like, okay, really? But hey, 13 years later.
13 years later, we're here. So can I say like it was love at first sight for Brother Muyiwa?
Nah.
I just told you that I sent the guy somewhere like an hour away to go get something.
So I think the good thing was that I worked in.
Really?
I used to work in Rockville then, so it wasn't like it was out of my way, but not like out of my way. If it was Baltimore, if I was living in Baltimore, working in Baltimore, nah, it would never happened. Never happened then, but yeah. So I think yes, we met in church. before I volunteered in the department, so I had known her because I was at Hopkins. I was in school doing my master's, so I used to come to Judith's house, and I knew she was in protocol. I didn't know if she was the head or not, but I used to, the way you people run around the protocol. Yeah. So it was all over the place. I just noticed that then I moved out of town. I moved for about probably 3 to 6 months, and then came back. So when I came back, no, sorry, when I was a student, then I volunteered for DTC. That year. And, Junior Men's Teaching Conference at our church teaching conference. So volunteered that year and then moved out of town, then came back. So it was after we came back, then I kind of settled down. I was like, okay, then went through the workers training and all of that kind of stuff. Sincerely, I wanted to go to choir. Yeah, I wanted to go to choir. Then Pastor was like, no, protocol. I was like, okay, protocol then, yeah. Oh, you didn't know that. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So kind of met there, then joined the department, then started hanging out and all of that kind of stuff. But I think it was from hanging out, meeting, there was just that kind of likeness grew from there, aside from there. And here we are 13 years after.
That's great. Wow. So I know I was talking to my dear sister earlier that how did she know that you're the one, and she told me not to ask her. But can I ask you, like, how did you know that Sister Baby was the one for you? Because obviously it wasn't love at first sight. So how did you not eventually get to know that, you know what, I actually like her, enough to marry her and to spend the rest of your life with her?
I was talking, so you go first.
That was for you.
Okay. I think, how would I put it? I think it was, I wouldn't say that I heard God. I wouldn't say that it was a typical, hey, this is the person you're going to marry, or this person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. But I think in our conversations and things like that, there was just that increasing sense of peace you get that I kept having. Prior to that, I was in a relationship, long-term relationship, broke up for whatever reasons and stuff like that. So I think there was, between that relationship, there was time in between, and looking into getting a relationship with her, there was just that sense of peace. There was definitely differences, and I intentionally did not want to do a compare and contrast. But I think it was just that increasing sense of peace and increasing sense of, I think I'll just put it that way. That whenever I prayed about it, definitely there wasn't just that. There weren't red flags, as I would say, or there weren't that unsettledness that I get that I was having whenever I prayed about it. So I felt like, hey, this was really the person.
Interesting. Do you have anything to add? How did you know about that?
I can relate to what he said. I think just generally people, singles tend to look for something. They're looking for, if this person fits in this criteria, then I believe the person is for me. I don't think that's how it works. I think if you have if you're the kind of person that hears from God, you know how you hear from God, you will hear in that way. But if it's that you find that this person's character, you feel in your spirit that you guys are compatible, and it's always a work in progress. There's no one, he's so tall, then that means it's for me. Oh, no, he's so rich, and that means it's for me. I don't think it works like that in marriage.
Yeah, sure. Do you have anything to add? All right, so moving on to the next question. So I think I already asked, like, how to be able to win. So now let's talk about marriage, the main topic, the main gist of it on one, right? Is expectations, expectations in marriage. Because the truth is, we all have our ideal of this is what my marriage would look like, the perfect picture of what my marriage would be versus what it is in reality, right? So I mean, I was trying to like just think about like what was like. I mean, some of the expectations I had was I thought I would marry like a very romantic guy that you know.
Are you trying
Yeah, trying to say something. Not so much.
You know, I thought it would be a very romantic guy. You know, every day would just be writing poems, and songs. This is a fairy tale kind of gist, like you know. But apparently, I married a real African man. So that's like one of the what I married. That's what I got, right? But again, so I just want you guys to like you know share some of that because I know like being single, like I said, I have my ideal, and I have a lot of single friends that they have like their ideal, what they're looking for, like they want someone perfect, right? So it has to be this, it needs to have like all these like characteristics, right? What would I say, right? Versus like you know, versus I mean they're not seeing that, they don't want to get into the relationship. So I mean, I mean, I guess the question is having all that idea, yeah, your ideal, whatever you're looking for, getting into the marriage. Would you say that you saw everything that you thought you were going to get in the marriage? And if not, how are you able to, you know?
Let's start with the first question. Did you have any expectations?
True, that's true.
That's the first question.
Did you have an expectation? Yeah.
I think generally, rather, it should
For
be
you.
expected. I'm just, in my own opinion right now, it's expected that everyone would want to have a happy home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the general lesson right there. Happy home, you expect that you both be faithful. You expect, some expect to have like 5, 6, 7 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be surprised that someone actually wants to have just one. And it's, I mean, different expectations for different people, I guess, but everyone wants to have a happy home. So how you relate that to the reality of things, it's another story on its own. But basically, I expected to have, you know, the sitcom we watch when we're young. In the morning, you're running down the stairs. Are the kids okay? All right, let's go, let's go. Yeah, nobody told you the actual reality of you're going to start screaming from your room. Where is everybody? Let's go. Because that is the reality, but that is not what we are sold, or rather. So, like Pastor would say, who bewitched you? Who told you when you get married, everything is going to fix every problem you have in your life? Well, no, that is not it. And for me, I just personally feel that even though as Christians, even maybe non-Christians, they go through the counseling stage, I think what we should focus on is the things that we are not being taught. How do you deal with those situations when you find yourself in that situation? I think those are like the most important expectation that you should be thinking of. How are you going to deal with that kind of situation? Because the truth of the matter is, what happens in my marriage is different from what happens in yours. There is no textbook that is going to write it all up for you and say, you know what, when A happens, you do this. When B happens, you do that. It doesn't work that way. Everything is tailored to fit each one, just as God has created all of us. We're all unique in our own different ways and all. So expectation is for us to have a long-lasting marriage, to be loving. I'm sorry, I didn't expect that we are not going to have issues, because you know what? Life, that's all what life is about. But how do you handle all those situations when you find yourself in it? Those are the most important things.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I'll throw the question back to you. Did you have an expectation getting married?
Not really. Well, I did. You know, of course, we all watched the movies and all of that, right? So we all thought in our head this is what it's supposed to look like. But then for me, you know, I think it helped that I married to someone that I dated. We dated on and off for what, 8 years. So we talked about a lot of the things we were expecting, so to speak, right? So, and maybe that was one of the reasons why we broke up too, because we kept on saying, okay, this is what I expected, and we were not aligned at that time, and we kind of said, okay, let everybody kind of go their way, and then as you're growing older, and you're kind of saying, okay, I need to reset my expectation and say, like Sipagwimi said, right? What is the reality? What is achievable? Can we set realistic expectations that, you know, so that way we don't end up disappointing each other, right? What are some of the things that we can do together? You know, like she said, we can have a happy home, we can build a happy home. One of the expectations, I think, Nico had an expectation that, oh, we're going to have 4 kids. And I'm like, okay. You know, and after the first one, we're like, yeah. People were like, why you only have 1 child? You wanted to stop at 1. I'm like, okay, let's compromise and do 2. You know, because they were like,
kill my
you know, obviously that was the wild expectation. But we have to reset that quickly when we think about, okay, how are we going to do it? It's not just about having kids. It's, you want to be able to love them equally, raise them, provide for them, and all of that, right? So that's when you kind of look at, let's adjust that, right? And it's not bad to have expectations. It's good to have expectations. But your expectations should not also be set in stone, because that can also kind of, you know, bring an end to the marriage prematurely. Say, for example, let's have an expectation of, can we have a business? Okay, maybe 5 years, we check in and we say, okay, we're not there yet. Is that the end? Should we just throw in the towel and be like, well, we expected to have a business in 5 years and we don't? Bye. No. So we cannot be rigid with your expectation either. You know, so yeah, while I did have some expectation, like we kind of talked about it throughout our dating process, and some of the ones we then had, and of course, like I said, with the child situation, we looked at it and I was like, okay, let's go back and go back to the, you know, make sure we're not being unrealistic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think for me, talking about expectation, I think foundationally, I definitely wanted to marry. It was an uncompromising expectation with someone who loved God. You get. I think that was one for me, and that was one of the things that guided, particularly. If I met someone and we decided talking, and I noticed that, hey, you have 1 leg in, 1 leg out. You get. That was a no-no for me. But one thing with Baby is that she was like 200% in church, right? So 100% in church, which for me, yeah, it was that was like expectation met, right? And coming to the marriage also, I think I'm not sure if we ever talked about this. When I made a decision, when I made a decision to not pursue clinical medicine, right? I think we talked about it, and I was like, okay, I wanted to know what her reaction was, would be, and things like that, because you know some people meet someone, hey, he's going to be a doctor and things like that, and your mind is set on that. But I think it was one of those things that I had seen from her, but I didn't know what the. It's something when you expect something, you know that okay, somebody is not fixed on the material, or is not fixed on what's, it's not fixed on measure, but more has a more futuristic outlook to life, right? And she was just like, "Are you sure that's what you wanted to do?" And it wasn't as if it was a one-time conversation. It was multiple conversations, because I myself also, it was like I go back, I go forward, then after a while I'm like, oh, let me do this thing, and go back and things like that. But I think expectation was also somebody who's realistic and things like that. And I think a lot of that came from my parents' marriage. Again, they grew up, as in, at least when I knew them, there wasn't much, there wasn't a lot more, but coupled things together, and at least one thing, some of the things that my parents never compromised was when it came to education, when it came to welfare of the children, they put that prime and things like that. So I was expecting that somebody, whosoever I would get married to, was going to have that kind of a mindset and say that, hey, we have our priorities. We might not be millionaires, but these are our priorities about life, and we put those irrespective of others. Other things, yeah, definitely. I also was hoping that I was going to get married to somebody who was a homemaker. I didn't want ordered pizza and stuff like that. Or somebody who was at least hands, because I tend to be hands-on also when it comes to a couple of things, but also somebody who can support with that. And we have our separate ways. She can do everything in the kitchen and whatever you get, and I also do that. But also there's also some things that so we kind of complement each other that way. And I felt that those are the kind of things that kind of build your relationship, build your marriage, builds the things that help you build that bond together. Okay, I'm talking too much.
No, this is great. I mean, this is great information.
Yeah, but then I mean, is it safe to say that, I mean, most of the things you expected in your wife, did you see, or did you not? Like, and I mean, I'll say,
okay, one thing, anyway, she's not the most romantic person. She's not. You see, then my job is to be romantic, you see. Who does that? Okay. So that was I would say, a shocker, and how will I put something that we've had to deal with over time, you get. But it's not a deal breaker.
yeah.
You understand? And I think where we then also, I think also my wife tends to takes her time to make some like life-changing decisions, right? So let's say she wants to change her career now. Maybe can spend 3 years thinking about it, or before she moves. I mean, once I think about it like this, so, but in other things, you get, she's like, and I'm the one who's like, for instance, if I see that, okay, I want to buy something right now. I think I was telling Sergio, I've forgotten who I was telling the other time that before I buy a car, I will research the car, I will and things that
the next model would have come.
Exactly, the next model would have come out. Maybe we'll go to the store and buy it. So that kind of a balance happens. And so it's I'll say the some of the expectations balance each other out. Some of the not meeting those expectations balance each other out. You get, or the expectations that I had that I did not get. Let me put it that way. Kind of balance each other or plays out that way. I think so.
So let me throw a question to you guys. Let's assume the audience is asking. What if you're in a marriage whereby you expected that your spouse, you said something about like one of the expectations was someone that was all in like with God and all of that, right? So what if initially she was all in, or she acted like she appeared like she was all in, and then all of a sudden she was like, oh, I'm having kids now, you take the lead, I'm just gonna be home, and all of that, right? And you realize she starts taking a step back with the things of God. She met your expectation in the beginning.
Yeah.
She appeared like she was Christian.
It's a tough one, but the first thing that came to mind is we'll have a problem. But I think it's a tough one in the sense that if we go back to the Bible talks about a Christian or a believer getting married to an unbeliever. So that's an extreme for me, right? I'm just put buts. A believer getting married to an unbeliever, but also talks about the believer washing, sanctifying the unbeliever. I'm paraphrasing here. So I think that even in that, you tend to, it might be a challenge in the sense that you fight, and complain and all of that kind of stuff at the beginning. But I think after a while, it is important for the believer to be able to go back to God and ask for guidance in that situation, and also model. Okay, so it might be that life happens. Okay, she's busy, overwhelmed, and overwhelmed with the kids and things like that. But I also think that what happens with a lot of Christians and Africans is that with the men, and these are the indictments of men, and I'm talking to men right now, if they're watching, is that you leave everything a lot on the wife, on your wife, sorry. You get like taking care of the children, cooking and things like that. Okay, let me give an example. She was head of protocol. She's head of protocol, but she was HOD protocol back then. Both of us were in the department. And it was always, and I knew what her schedule was. Sometimes we wake up, the first call she gets is a protocol call, the last call she gets is a protocol call, and things like that. And I kind of figured out, okay, how do I support? But also from my background, it's not as in, you don't leave one person to just take care of everything. You should still go sit there. Okay, so in my mind was, how do we share this? After all, the kids are ours, right? Or the child is ours. So how do we divvy this up to ensure that it's not weighted on, it's not weighted on one person, or one person doesn't feel the burn. And I think doing those things and being incremental in it, because raising kids, the challenges are different. Today is babysitting, napkin, and all, being diapers and all of that kind of stuff. Tomorrow it's them running around and things like that. So the challenges are different. But also you being in a position to alleviate some of those challenges and ensure that you can take on some of those, such that the person gets to a point whereby and you keep having those conversations, and the person doesn't feel overwhelmed, not to think that church is now a burden. Do you get, or functioning in church is now a burden? So I think that's the way to balance it out.
That's good though. I mean, so the very typical African men, are you hearing? The ones that believe that the wife must cook, clean, take care of the children, like do everything in the house, they want their wives to die early.
What are your thoughts?
What are your thoughts? Because if by like throwing it from me, I just all of a sudden said, you know what, I want to be watching us now. I'm following the league and what's forward.
What if that is the case? They are going to lose their season. Oh my God!
But just saying.
But the time when we were even going to church plenty, we were losing the season.
Some people were still sneaking out of church to watch the game. Anyway, so yeah. So what if you have to say,
if that were to be the case, unfortunately, there's going to be like a drawback in the marriage. It's going to set us back a bit, because in that situation, I mean, I would have to drop some things and get back on my knees and like focus on praying to get this man back on track. So, I mean, that is it for me, because I mean, you can't scold a grown man. You just keep complaining, and from what I have seen, when you keep complaining about something, men tend to do that thing which you're asking them not to do. So guess what? Wisdom. That's one thing God has given unto us. I will go down on our knees and pray. I mean, that is a distraction. You just need to work on that distraction. That's it.
And if I may add, I think in every man's life, or in every person's life, there's a period of, I don't know whether it's second or third self-discovery, let me put it that way, that you just start questioning. I don't want to call it midlife crisis, but it might not be midlife crisis, because midlife crisis is more in the 50s and thereabout. But it's like, there's that kind of there's this kind of a discovery you get, or you start asking questions or things like that. And I think it's very, very important that even that discovery is grounded in God. Because it's very, very easy to get distracted, to move away, do you get? And or to lose focus. And that is when things come in. So when people question that, for instance, if you remember the question maybe like 2-3 years ago, when this guy Daddy Freeze or whatever talking about tithing, and he will take the kid and issue in Nigeria and stuff like that. And I'm like, God is just asking for 10%, or where I require that. Hey, it's just 10% of your income that people are talking about. It's when you aggregate it that you're not talking. Okay, but that's just 10% of you. And as Pastor said, it's a mind of giving. Do you believe in giving or not? You get, I have a lot of people who are, yeah, we're not giving tithes again. I'm like, okay, so they're using that 10%. Do you get? So, and these are people who earn well. You get, who earn well. I'm like, does it even really matter to you? Does it do anything to you? Do you get? Then you see them, okay, they're flying around. I'm like, okay, that's what you want to use the 10% to do. But I, for one, so there needs to be a groundedness. You get? So, being very careful. And just as Benny said, there's also a way that praying for your spouse really matters. I think we kind of neglect it also in marriage. Maybe we'll get comfortable, but it's really, really important.
All right, so in a situation whereby you married someone and you feel that this is my expectation, initially they met the expectation, but then along the line, they're not meeting that expectation again. Just pray about it, right? That's what I'm getting, like pray about it, check with your partner to see what's going on. I mean, what's causing the change, to figure out, like, you know.
There's always going to be a change.
Positive or negative.
Yeah, both ways. You just have to pray and align yourself with the positive part of it.
Yeah, and I really feel like a lot of people, like, it's just lack of proper communication too sometimes. Because if, let's say, the person used to like to cook, and then all of a sudden they don't want to cook again, there must be a reason why they stopped cooking. Or maybe someone that maybe was really into church, right? And then they stopped going to church. Why did they stop going to church? I mean, they didn't just go to church to get married. Now they've gotten married. They don't want to go again. They're in trouble.
But I also think that we also need to be careful as believers, right? So the person left church. And one thing I found out, person left church, what did we do to facilitate that? You get. Some people might be that they go to church because that's their life, right? You've grown up, you don't know any other life outside of church. You get, even if you're just a nominal church goer or something of that nature. And this is just to say the things that we say, the way we do it also, or the way we act, might impact or not. So the person didn't just wake up and say, it wasn't as if the devil woke up and slapped that person and he said, so what have we been saying? What have we been doing? Have we been disparaging the work of God or the church of God and things like that over time? Even you, like, are you living your life as a spouse to in honor of God? You get to in truth to what you're calling is, such that at some point that the person is just like, hey, I'm sick and tired of this pretense. You get, or whatever, and just goes. So there's something that it's an accumulation of things. I just don't think people just wake up and just up and live like that. Especially though we're never there.
Well, I mean, that's true, but then some people also do pretend, right?
Yeah,
true. You know how they always say this?
The cowboys and cowgirls are also talking about.
Exactly. So if they want to marry, they go to church to get the good girls or the good guys, and then they go back to the normal self. So, I mean, so anything else on expectation? So, I mean, sorry, please, can I ask? Is it safe to ask that? So, what you married versus what you got, did you get what you need? If you're looking at your life now, just tell me the truth. Cover one face. So just say you got exactly what you married, or you know what, or you have to go back and pray about it, like, Lord, what did I marry? I mean, I'm just saying
it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, and also if you say, I mean, we didn't go to the market to buy anything. But when you say in a marriage that is what you married, is that what you got? Look at this one. When we got married, have you seen those pictures?
No. Maybe we need to flash that picture.
I know.
If you put them, I will cut down your channel. Those are classified pictures.
So, I mean, I expect for things to get better. So that's why it's looking like that. So we'll pray some prayers elsewhere, and then we're working the other one.
Let me pump my own this thing. Remember the last time I went to Nigeria? So my wife went to a store, and she went to buy stuff. But she now came back and like, did you even buy it? No, she called me. It's like, meanwhile, this is this. I'm like, babe, buy it. I'm like, are you serious? I mean, like, I'm like, just go ahead and spend what you need to spend and buy it. And I'm like, was that where I was 5 years ago? No, I'm like, no, okay, and things like that. But we thank God for increase.
Yeah.
We thank God for where He's taken us to where He's brought us now.
Yeah.
I also just want to say that it's always a work in progress. Do you get it? You and I'm a believer that what you thought you wanted. See, God is the all-knowing God. You have your expectations. Oh, it must be tall, dark, and handsome. Whatever is tall, dark, and handsome is what will be beating you. The one that will be beating you, right? So behind all of that, I feel that God is the all-knowing God. To stay on track, He's the all-knowing God, and we reveal in power. We know in parts and things like that. And as you're married, as you dedicate yourself to your marriage, there are parts of your wife, that your husband, that will be revealed unto you more and more. That will be more than what you thought. Do you get? I used to think that I was an entrepreneurial person. Do you get? But this one is on another level. Do you get? As in tenacity that, okay, this thing we need to follow it through. When did I start knowing this? Recently. Do you get? We started talking about businesses and things like that and following through on stuff like that. Okay, I think I've figured this out a long time ago about myself. I'm a very big picture thinker. Do you get? I think about the big picture. I can do strategy. I can do a lot of stuff, all of that. But when it comes to those operational pieces and things like that, I don't think I'm very good at that. You get? But she's the one who will follow through. Sometimes she sleeps at 2 a.m. What she's doing, she's searching for something and things like that. So did I know that 3 years ago? No. Do you get? So, and I think it's setting us up also on a track for growth, for expansion and things like that. So yeah, did I think about that? Maybe I thought about, okay, I wanted somebody who was entrepreneurial or whatever. I'm not even sure that was even an expectation. So I think what I'm saying is that the more you peel, it's like an onion. The more you peel, the more you see and things like that, and you begin to understand more about that person that actually strengthens your marriage and adds value to you as well.
I think in marriage also we need to learn to celebrate the little things, the little wins. Yeah, you don't have to wait to have the mansion to celebrate. So every step, celebrate and appreciate God.
Okay, to the point. Regarding expectations, just one last thing for me. From just thinking about it too, right? Even if your spouse does not meet those expectations, or maybe you had this idea in your mind and they are not meeting those expectations yet, you can start praying those. It's not too late, right? Oh, I want my husband to be able to do this, especially if you've had those conversations and they've been futile, right? You can start praying about those expectations, start decreeing it, and then you too, the more you say, and the more you pray about it, you start to see it. And like Saguna says, when you see that little one, appreciate me. Appreciate it, as she said. For example, for me, one thing I used to, my husband is very traditional to me, right? So I used to pray that they did more in terms of like, he cleans up, and I'm like, I just do more, right? So like, I started praying about it that he should do even more. Like maybe I should just have one day. So the day that he does it, I thank him. I'm just like, why are you thanking me? I was like, let me thank you. Let me celebrate this one. Because if you celebrate today, you get the one for tomorrow. Because, I'm setting you up essentially in advance. Because now you cannot disappoint me. Because I've already thanked you, right? So you can pray about it. Not just have the conversation, but pray it into existence essentially. So you can have those expectations. But if you don't see it yet, you can pray it into existence.
I think one thing about expectations, and I think as Christians, I think the foundational expectation is to marry a good person.
Absolutely.
Because when you marry a good person, someone who's committed to you, someone who loves you, I think that's the biggest expectation. I think that's the biggest expectation. Because every other thing is as my Hausa people say, is Jara. You get, it's just an add-on onto that. It's just an add-on onto that. So I think that should be our biggest expectation. So for me to singles who are watching this, I think that should be biggest expectation. For people who are in marriages, and if your marriages are rocky or you're having challenges, going back to that point where you say, okay, is this person really a good person? Does this person love me for who I am? And I think that kind of helps reset everything. And I think sincerely, when we have challenges, man, we've had some serious challenges, right? And I think when I go back to that, it's like, okay, is she an evil person? Do you get it? Is she somebody who just wants to hurt me? Do you get out of despite everything, right? You get even if she says hurtful things, right? I feel like that might be hurtful. But baseline, is that her intention and things like that? So and it has always been no. You get it. It's always been no. It's so being able to zero back down to that place that, hey, this person is loving, this person is intentionally has good intentions towards me, towards our marriage, wants us to work and things like that. And I think that is always the ground zero for expectations and all that. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you, everyone. So just to wrap everything up, right? So can I say, is it safe to have expectations? Like just talking to things, like is it okay to have expectations? Because I've heard that don't have any expectation. Is it real? Is it like, I mean, is it safe to have expectations? And where do you really draw that line? I mean, just 1 minute. Let's just wrap it up. Like just like, where do you draw between having an expectation, healthy expectation, versus like it's becoming an idol in your heart that hinders you from even seeing the small wins and everything that you're seeing to celebrate, like just, to wrap everything up.
I believe it is safe to have expectations, but just make sure they are realistic expectations. And I think for singles, most singles are always so fixated on tall, dark, and handsome. You're having expectation of things that appearances. That's just nothing. In which, if that's your expectation, then you really, really do not know the reason why you're married. So,
because you won't remember tall, dark, and handsome.
So yeah, if just to chime in, I think it's makes sense, absolute sense on expectations, right? But as you said, let your expectations be realistic. Let it be grounded in not the ephemeral, in the sense that in things that are, how I put it, fluffy things. You get on what we see on social media and what we think and things like that. It's interesting. I follow this channel called Millionaire Life, and I just look at it and just laugh. Excuse me. And those kind of things. But setting your expectations, like I said, what are your expectations for God, as in about who you want to live your life with? You get, if you go through the depths, the valley of the shadow of death, right? Will that person be with you? Was that the kind of person you want to do life with in those kind of situations? Is that the kind of person you see walking with you, standing beside you, holding your hand and things like that? If your 10/10 becomes 2/10 because maybe you had an accident or you were sick or things like that, you get, they're the kind of person you want to do life with. One example I'm going to give, a friend of mine, and if she's watching this, you know I'm talking about her. A friend of mine, we went to college together, and she had, for a period of time, she was very active on social media, on Facebook and stuff like that, and she just dropped off, right? Apparently, she was going through a life-harrowing situation.
Wow.
Do you get? I think it was either childbirth, I can't remember, but she was sick for years. Her husband stood beside her. Do you understand? So just imagine your wife is sick. A lot of men are thinking about sex and all of that kind of stuff. When your wife is sick, is that what you're thinking about? Do you get? And that guy stood. Now they've come around the corner. Do you understand? And they have a lovely daughter, and they're doing very well and things like that right now. But you should think about it for singles. Is that the kind of person you want to do that with, or somebody that is going to quit on you when you are down?
Yeah.
So I think when we're talking about expectations, ground setting is really, really important. Thank you. Yeah.
Any?
I would say no. So I know you guys said it's good to have expectations. So I give against that. I would say no to having expectations, and that's just because I know, yes, you're saying have realistic expectations, but if you're not self-aware, how do you know that your expectations are realistic, right? So if a self-aware person, I'll be like, okay, this is my, because then I feel like to that can answer is a realistic expectation. Not to you, but to them it is, right? So go in with an open mind, have those conversations, like, okay, this is, okay, talking, is this person a good person? Do you love God? Have those conversations. This is what I'm looking for in a partner. This is the kind of partner I want to be, right? Be your own expectation, essentially. So for me, I said don't set an expectation just because if you're not self-aware that your expectation is just not realistic. I want to marry a doctor. Is that a realistic expectation? No, but somebody might think it is, right?
I said it.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. So for me, in my opinion, don't have expectation. That's I'm arguing against that. So I agree with you guys, but I'm also saying that.
So my own, what I married versus what I got is I wanted to marry a doctor, of course, because I wanted us to be going on mission trip, you know. I already had everything all planned out, but God gave me a musician, so what can I say?
Mission trip. Mission trip.
Okay. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I know, like, this is very short, but maybe on our next slide, we're going to be talking about, you know, where do you draw the line between expectation and idol? Because I really feel that a lot of single people have idols in their heart that may prevent them, you know, from, like, really receiving what God has for them. Or even, like, some people that are married, they may actually also, like, have this idol that they're not appreciating what God has already done for them. Right, so that will be on our next discussion. Again, my name is well, we'll be posting the next discussion on Instagram because I'm not really sure, like, when
the schedule aligns. Communicate ahead of time when the schedule aligns.
Exactly.
For the next live session.
Exactly. So my name is Precious, and this is my sister Abby.
We're the tapers.
The tapers. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Happy New Year.
Happy Easter.